most important skill for a voice actor to have, in my opinion, is the ability to act.
We asked professional voice actors how to succeed in 2025. What is the most important skill for voice actors?
This is going to sound obvious, but acting. Voice acting, they like to say voice, the V is sort of the small portion of it, the acting is a large portion of it. So being able to live in those characters' skins is the most important thing. And I think the voice that you do after comes second.
The ability to act. A lot of people get into voice acting things like, oh yeah, I can do all these voices, I can do all these impressions, and they all focus on things like the sound of the voice and also the delivery, the emphasis of certain words. Whereas people with acting training think very differently. They think more in terms of, what does my character want? What is my relationship to the person that I am talking to? Who am I talking to? What do I ultimately want to get out of them? And these are things that lead to performances that are more believable and more detailed. And especially a word that's used a lot in acting is specific.
I think tenacity. You can have talent, you can have skill, you can have the best equipment. I think tenacity to just stick with it. As you said, get up every day, make the decision to get in front of the mic and get yourself up there. Like, even if you have to hype yourself up in the mirror and to just give it your all, even if you're not feeling 100%, you're still giving 110%.
First and foremost is knowing about the art of performance and actually being an actor.
Tenacity. If you get more than one on-camera audition a day, you are like crushing it. You're probably at your agency, you're probably one of their top earners. With voiceover, there is a good possibility that you will do anywhere between 20 and 50 voiceover auditions in a day.
What are some of the must-have tools or equipment for a home recording setup?
So if you only have like AirPods or like your phone microphone or I don't know, a tin can, just scream in the tin can until you feel good enough to upgrade your equipment and make a little money to save up. But I would say the bare minimum that you need to really kind of get into some like upper scale projects is you want something called a condenser microphone, which is a microphone that uses XLR cables and goes into an interface that then goes into your computer. So I would say at a baseline, a condenser microphone and an interface, if you have those two things, at that point, it's just down to you. So that's all you really need.
Don't blow your bank account building the perfect setup. Build a setup that's good enough to get you started. And then if that starts working, you start picking up work, even if it's unfunded, and you're able to start getting a bit of a name for yourself and eventually get paid work. If you're able to use the money from the paid work to make your space better.
So as a beginner, I started off with a Blue Yeti microphone USB. I started off with a blanket over my head, and I had a big office space. Yes, I landed some roles, not really paid gigs, because I was learning my trade. Go off that with your equipment until you're able to set a goal financially for yourself to achieve, because it isn't going to be cheap. Don't think that. If you're serious, that's what it's going to take.
Is some kind of pedestal or something where you have your monitor or otherwise stuff on because you want to stand. Yes, you can do stuff sitting, like certain stuff I would also do while sitting, like if you're reading something, do an audiobook. But for a lot of roles, for example, roles for a video game or for an audio drama, you want to stand. You want to get your body moving. You want to have that energy that you only have when you're standing. So you want something to put your stuff on.
Okay, so little known secret here, but the one thing that you must definitely have is a microphone. The very first microphone that I ever had was a Blue Yeti podcast microphone that was like, £50 on eBay. I think it was even less than that. and that was just one that plugged straight into the laptop. But I did have some of my early work from home paid voiceover gigs that I recorded on a Blue Yeti microphone. So I think for starters, you can get something like that just to get used to working with a microphone and maybe using the software.
Well, I would say one that I don't see a lot of people cover, that I think is incredibly important, it's soundproofing. And even if it's basic, I've only got foam panels, just kind of strewn about the wall, staggered about the wall. But the fact of the matter is, you can have the highest quality mic on the market, but if you don't have a treated space, you're not going to get the right bang for your buck.
What are some bad habits that beginner voice actors should avoid?
Flipping.
I guess I can only say from experiences I've seen, and probably from my own experiences. I've seen a lot of new VAs jump into something maybe they weren't prepared for. And what I mean by that is, hey, I'm taking on this responsibility, but I don't have time for it. So make sure you always have time for a project. Another thing is knowing what is expected. So a lot of times, a lot of people may get frustrated, and it's understandable, but you got to understand this industry is about you listening to the director or the producer, whoever is in charge of the project. They may have instructions on how they want you to audition. If you don't follow those instructions, you're not going to get casted. There's a lot of times where the instructions may be slate your name first, tell me a little about yourself in the comments before you submit your audition. There are times where I'll listen to people's auditions that have those specific instructions, and people will just audition. They won't even read the instructions. Always read project instructions first. Another thing is critique. Listen to feedback. If you're not going to take feedback, you don't need to be in this industry. I've seen people try to get directed, like live directing, that did not take critique so well. Don't be like that. Always be courteous, professional. They're not there to hate on your acting. They're there to shape the role that you're acting for. So make sure you just take that as they're trying to help me improve so that I can understand that role better.
Not being technically proficient and then just not having worked on your craft as an actor enough to the point where you have the confidence to just get up in front of the mic and know that your lived experience and all the research that you did will just propel yourself forward without any need to editorialize or explain.
Hydrate before you record, sometime before you record, because what's really amazing for people to hear, all these mouth sounds you do when your mouth is dry. Nothing is good when you do like your most amazing take, your most seductive take. You're like, hey baby.
One of the biggest things is disobeying instructions, not following directions. Like you tell them to do 3 takes per line and they only do 1 take, or you tell them not to peek in your microphone but they peek anyway. Just disobeying instructions is never a good thing.
Don't try and run before you can walk. So I think some people don't realize, and again, I was guilty of this as well, not realizing the time and the investment that it takes, not just for voice acting, but any kind of performative or storytelling craft.
If you stick too rigidly to this is what I want to do, this is who I want to voice, all that, it can kind of lead to a little bit of a situation where you can be perceived as difficult to work with.
I would say breath control, and that is a big one, and I'm not sure if anyone's mentioned that. There's a lot of voice actors, and even classes I join and just individuals I've worked with, where they're trying to either put on a voice and they sort of constrict their vocal cords when they're reading, and they're afraid to let the breath out. And with, when you hear metal singers or you hear opera singers, they're letting all of that air out, and it's more of a diaphragm thing rather than a throat thing. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of voice actors make.
How can you stand out from the rest?
I like doing 3 takes. 1 the way everyone else is doing it. 1 the way I think I should do it. And 1 the bat crazy way.
with an audition, you want to show something. You want to take risks. You want to take bigger swings, in part just to stand out. And this also goes a little bit more to acting training, where it's one of the things that is often thrown at me in classes, and I've often thought about, is trying to think like, what are the stakes and how can I make them bigger? So I don't know how this content kind of plays, but if it's something like a husband is mad at his wife for whatever reason, it's like, if I'm playing this as, I'm mad at my wife because she wants me to do the dishes and I don't like that. It's like the stakes aren't very high. Then it's like, I'm mad at my wife because I'm pretty sure she's cheating on me with like the pool cleanup boy. Like the stakes are much higher. And I don't know, that's the greatest example. But just finding ways to make the stakes higher, trying to make things really matter so that it comes out in the audition and leaves more of an impression.
Definitely be polite, be respectful, follow directions. And if they tell you what to list in your audition, do that. And add a little something extra if you can. Like, obviously, follow the instructions, do what they can. But go a little extra mile. Do something they're not expecting. Not like ad lib or anything. Though that does help. But even do a take they're not expecting.
The best way to stand out from everybody, and it may sound, a little bit cornball, but is to just be your authentic self. Just be unashamedly you and who you are.
What's the best way to get hired as a voice actor?
If you are trying to work as a voice actor, and especially if you're trying to make a living, is not being restricted to one genre. And video games in particular is something where, like, unless or until you get to a certain level, it's unlikely that you can make a living on video game voice acting alone. And typically a lot of voice actors voice act in multiple genres. They'll do commercials, they'll do corporate narration, and these are also things where there's a lot of money in those areas.
I'll be honest, this is one that people do talk about more frequently, but it is very important, and it is networking. Networking is absolutely key. It's about getting out there, putting yourself in the space and making yourself known. And overall, making new friends and acquaintances. And ultimately, it only takes that to get the ball rolling. Knowing someone is a fundamental part of knowing someone else. And they're like, oh, this guy might be good for your project. If you've got a good reputation, that can also be passed on. Networking. And if that, that ball starts rolling, it can get to a lot of ears.
Me personally, I tend to kind of just shotgun blast. I basically just audition for a whole bunch of roles at a time, see which ones actually stick, but obviously putting my all into each of them. I treat it as if this is gonna get me cast for this. If you go into it with that mindset, you put your best foot forward, you show off your best work, it greatly increases your chances of being hired.
I would just say start auditioning. And when I say start, I don't mean start like, I'll finish this video, eat some food, lay down, wake up, think about it. Like, just start. Literally just get on your computer and start, because you're always gonna get better and you never know which audition is gonna land. There's a million auditions that I thought were like, this is that audition. They would be crazy not to cast me, and then they didn't cast me. And I'm sitting there looking like a fool. So audition as much as you can. There's plenty of places on like Discord servers, casting call club. That's my bread and butter for right now. There's plenty of other sites. You can even, honestly, if you want to get hired, and I'm working on this too myself, start social media and just post yourself doing your own clips. Make your own work, and people will recognize it. People will see it.
From my own experience, best way to get hired as a voice actor is to really listen to what the person on the other side is trying to tell you what they want, right? What kind of voice do they want? What kind of acting do they want? What do they want as a solution. What do you need to show them? I think that's key. And throwing a little improv in there. That's what I've learned. Like, why not? Go above and beyond. Even if it's ridiculous, like, just try it. And the last piece of advice I got, which I think will help voice actors, is don't be afraid to go overboard, like over the top in some areas, because a casting director can see that and go, oh, okay, well, let's pull it back. They can always pull you back. But doing something kind of halfway or timidly, sometimes a casting director won't be able to see your range. And also just be nice. It's such an overlooked thing, but like, be a likable person. If like somebody wants to hang out with you or just be around you, that's half the game won.
So there is Casting Call Club. I started out using that. You can start off doing a lot of unpaid, fan-made work if you want to. If you go to Twitter, you can find a wonderful community you could type in casting calls or voice acting. There are free Discord groups. Voice Acting Club, that's free. They have paid, unpaid. VA Treehouse is another Discord group, free. Has paid and unpaid voice acting gigs. The last one I have is a Voice Actors League. Again, these are Discord servers that funnel you access to this. It's not gonna fall into your lap. So again, if you want the tools, look at those Discord groups. Those are 3 of them. Sign yourself up on Twitter. Sign yourself up on Casting Call. Do some of the searching.